Welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, episode 256. This is going to be the best episode ever because we have yet another player interview for you. Mack from the New York Subliners joined us just hours ago. So we have that pre-recorded, canned interview for you. Good stuff coming from him. Talking a little bit about their season as well as champs. Speaking of CDL, we have one last week. Believe it or not, the season is done. Seems like just yesterday we started it. But we'll preview a little bit of Toronto for you. But also, the big reveal today. I hope it lived up to your hype. Can't say it lived up to ours. But no spoilers, because Halo Infinite was revealed at the Microsoft Showcase. So we'll give our too soon reaction for what we saw, or what little we saw. And of course, we have e-news. But before we get to that, let me tell you about the show sponsor, Alt. Go check them out, altesports.com. They have the top of the line, the cream of the crop, the cat's pajamas, the bee's knees of esports apparel. It is either dropped already or about to drop. It will probably be out by the time this podcast is hitting your earbuds, because they are coming out with the LA pack, whatever they call it. And I don't know if you've seen this on Twitter, at Ultimate on Twitter. LA, if you live in LA, hell, I'm even thinking about getting one. Nice purple, kind of, it can go with either the Gladiators or the Gorillas vibe. I mean, it is clean out of Alt. So you can check that out, altesports.com. While you're there, you can pick up a 101 Burglars hoodie. Temperatures are dropping every day. Not in Texas, definitely not here, but somewhere temperatures are dropping, and you will need a hoodie eventually. So go and pick yourself a 101 Burglars hoodie designed by yours truly, and that you can get that all at altesports.com.
Hey, I'm Simon 1G, and you guys are listening to The Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, a.k.a. TCR, a.k.a. your favorite esports podcast. This is episode 256, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, July 23rd, 2020. The time, 8:47 p.m. Central. Delayed the show again by a day because we realized, oh wait, we have another player interview. So we got Mack on the show. That just happened a little bit ago. So we were like, all right, well, let's delay it because we knew that was coming up. But then also, we completely forgot the Microsoft Showcase. So we were like, well, we want to talk about Halo hot off the press. So we delayed it. Hopefully you all survived. Hopefully the Wooskin interview was enough to get you through the delay. But I'm glad you stuck around. Follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring if you're not doing so already. And our website, tcr.gg. Links are there for Discord, YouTube, whatever you need is on the website and also our Twitter profile. So join the conversation if you're not in Discord yet. We are always popping. Always looking for people to play games with. In fact, if you were in there, you would have saw that we were playing Valorant for the first time in months yesterday. So there you go. My name is Tim. I'm your captain for this journey into esports, and alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend, the friend repping the 101 Burglars hoodie behind him if you're watching us live on Twitch. It's Anuj.
Halo is back, Timmy. This is like your baby.
Look, we'll get into it. Mixed emotions.
But it's back. It's back.
It's
That's
back.
important.
It's back. Exactly. This is typically too soon reviews are a little knee jerky, and I feel like we're going to be very knee jerky on this one.
100%.
But that's the point. Anyways, so yeah, we did play some Valorant yesterday.
That was fun. It was like our first competitive game of Valorant since it left beta. And when in beta, it was pre-child. So we played a ton. Like I played a ton.
Well,
of
you
Valorant.
played a ton.
I played a ton of Valorant.
I played a ton and left mid-game a ton.
Yeah, you played a lot of first halves.
Oh yeah. First 4 rounds I was money. After it got kind of shaky.
Yesterday we got to play for the first time. And you know what? Tim and I top fragged, so I'm proud of that. We lost in an overtime match, unfortunately.
So,
but it was, I had fun playing it. Like I had fun playing the game.
Pretty much just like what it was when we left, right? Top frag and losing. Not much has changed. No, I would like to say Halo is back, and so are we. I really didn't feel like I lost a step.
Doesn't that feel good? Honestly, just like walking back into a game, and especially an FPS where, look, we played with some friends that are playing daily. I mean, like they play every single day, and Tim and I went in there and we had to show the kids what's up from time to time, and
I was
we were able to do that
in because I'm like, for me, I'm Michael Jordan, I hold myself to a standard. I'm watching The Last Dance for the first time because it's on Netflix now. So I got that.
Amazing show, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And I'm like reliving my childhood fandom for Jordan.
Yeah.
So like I want to go and get like a Bulls jersey all of a sudden because I was a Bulls fan growing up because of, obviously.
That's why I bought that Bulls shirt that I wore on stream the other day is because I watched the freaking Last Dance. I'm like, I want a Bulls Jordan.
I mean, it makes you want to run through a brick wall because you're watching Michael Jordan, and like I pretty much put myself in his shoes while playing Valorant yesterday and dominated. I mean, clearly that loss was not on me. You were my Pippin, and I still got. I was worried muscle memory was going to leave me, but then I realized when you're the best, it never really goes.
It never goes away.
It never goes
away.
So I was flicking heads, getting triple kills, making clutch plays, absolutely dominated. And like Anuj said, though, same old. We lost in overtime.
We lost.
Story of my life.
I had 6 kills in 1 round for an ace, and we managed to lose the game. It hurts. It hurts when we're making plays in every round and we lose. So
look,
it was still fun though. Enjoyed getting back into it, and I'll still say the same thing I said when the game launched. I want more maps. Like I just wish I had more variety. Like you play the same couple maps every time, it feels like, and it's just I want a little bit more.
Well, I remembered why we don't play it as much, because obviously we didn't do a show yesterday, but we still have that time like notched out in my wife's calendar. It's like, hey, Wednesdays 8:30, it's kind of the show time. It's my time. So we were like, all right, well, let's still just stream for the audience. Can't let our fans down. So we streamed a little, talked about Halo while playing Valorant. And that really does eat up your time. We had like an hour and a half to play and got in 1 game because afterwards we were like, oh, there's no way we can start another one.
We got 1 game in and a couple of rifts in Diablo, and that was the night. And those rifts take like 2 minutes apiece, so you can tell how long we had. It was fun though. I'm glad we had that time notched out. Like that was crucial.
It makes you. It makes me want to go play more Valorant or CS because I got those. Even then, like I got those nervous jitters, right? Which a normal game can't produce that, right? No. That's how I know I was feeling it and I was having fun. Because when it was like when I was the last one alive or the last 2, you get those nervous jitters. Like everyone is watching me right now, being a backseat gamer, and I need to show up.
You set up a little bit more for sure.
Yeah, you really do. And that's how I knew it was good. I just wish we had more time. I wish I had more time to play, but realistically, like 2 games a week is probably my max at the moment, which is life. That's okay.
It's the way it is right
I'm not complaining. That's the reality of it. So jealous of those who can, but hey, I'll still top frag your ass. So
there's that.
there's that. All right. So let's get into some of this Halo discussion though, because it's been a long time coming, Anuj, where we just dedicate a spot on this show for, in my opinion, at its prime, a top 3 esport. Maybe a
Yeah,
top 2
in
esport.
its prime, yeah, for sure. I mean, it was right up there at the top. There really wasn't competition for a period of time, I feel, right? Like when
No.
Halo was in its true glory days. It's a, it's a skeleton of what it once was. And not in terms of the game, it's just people have moved on, right?
Yeah.
And so this is their way of making the next gen version to bring that audience back, plus people that used to play and a new fan base. Um, and yeah, they had the reveal today, and yeah, obviously we're gonna dive into it, right?
Yeah.
And
Of course. It was just a campaign reveal, which again we'll get into that in a moment. I just want to talk some general Halo at the moment. Um and Prong, number 1 listener at the moment, always in Twitch chat, in on the conversation. You can be in on the conversation too. I'm going to address his statement because he says, I'm sold, getting an Xbox Series X day 1. That's madness. Don't do that. You get yourself a PC, okay? Get yourself a PC. But I'm taking a step back from that, Kyle. I just wanted to address it. It was on my top of mind. Here's the thing with Halo, okay? Because people like to think like, oh, well, Halo esports is dead, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's dead. I think it's in hibernation. People got to remember here, Halo 5 came out. Do you know when this game came out? Halo 5.
before, after Diablo 3.
Well, after for sure. It's not
Okay.
that old, but it came out October of 2015.
That's a long time
That
ago.
is a long time, especially when you're thinking like that's your system seller. Like Halo is Xbox when you think of it that way. And so when you only come out with a game every 5 years, which hey, when Halo was popular, that's what you did. It was not what we know nowadays where you either have season passes and constant updates and the expectation is that there's something new every 2 or 3 months, right? The expectations weren't set back then, but you got to think 5 years in gaming, that's almost like an entire generation missing out. Like kids that were maybe a little too young to start playing seriously esports driven, 10 years old? I'd probably say like around 13, 15 is when like you start
Yeah.
getting those juices flowing as far as I think I could play this competitively. Well, you're missing out, right? Like the 15, 16-year-olds nowadays were 10 and 11 back then. They're not playing Halo. They're playing all these BRs that we're seeing. They're playing the new Call of Duty that comes out every year. They're playing the free-to-play game that they can make millions off of. Halo to them is like ancient.
Having a 5-year life cycle on a game is just, it's so rare, right? For a game to stay popular that long. Like we're spoiled with a game like Counter-Strike where it feels like it's been around forever, but there's been different
Yeah.
iterations of the game, and now we're even approaching like really long time in CS:GO. But it's rare. There's just not many games that actually can do it and then stay popular throughout that time. So even though Halo 5 still has a competitive scene, it's not like people are like, "Oh, let me go into Halo." Like, guess what? They're gonna go play the new Call of Duty, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not on PC, so you're talking about a limited game pool of what they're going to be playing. Most of them are looking forward to the next Call of Duty game that comes out because hey, it does have all the fancy new features, right? It does have the BR mode. It does have like new skins and all that, season pass and different ways to get into it, and it's just popular. So it's about damn time, right? And kind of just taking even a further step back here, just the overall. Did you watch like a lot of the kind of skip through at least like a lot of the fest or whatever the hell they called it, the Xbox reveal
Yeah. I mean,
show, the
I had it
showcase?
on in the background while working, and then afterwards I went back and watched it.
It's funny because watching it, I was like, oh, they're really like pushing this Xbox Game Pass, and as a PC player, that gets me really excited because that means they're going to be like PC releases also. Like all of the things that we were watching will most likely be playable on your computer, right? So I thought that was a cool thing about it. But as a whole, I thought the whole showcase was a little underwhelming. Like I didn't see many titles on there, like we saw in chat a second ago. Like I didn't see a lot on there that made me be like, oh, I need to buy an Xbox when it releases. Like, I have to have this as soon as it comes out because what I saw was like, hey, the Game Pass is going to be there. So,
Yeah. I would almost
um,
like to think, like in my brain, the way I think about it is Halo hasn't failed. I would say the Xbox and Microsoft has failed Halo in the sense of the other platforms, and I think of PC and the PlayStation in this sense. From a competitive esports stance, just it outdid Xbox. Why that's the case? I don't have time to talk about it right now, and I don't have the information to even start spitting off, but it's true. Like, Call of Duty League uses the PS4. 99% of the fighting games out there use the PS4. The only games that I can think of that even use the Xbox is the exclusive games. The ones that only have the choice is Xbox. If there's any other choice out there, they're using the PlayStation or they're using the PC. I think Halo, in a sense, also kind of, I think they're, to their own fault, I think a tad stubborn when it comes to admitting that your esport isn't the biggest out there. Right? Like,
yeah,
I feel like just looking on Twitter, even today, a lot of the old professional esports players for Halo were coming out and getting excited and saying, Halo's back, Halo's back. I can't tell you, Anuj, the number of people we have reached out to get from the Halo community on the show and have either had no or nothing back.
yeah. It's actually kind of crazy because all we want to do is hype it up ourselves, because
That's
we're
it.
excited about it. It's not like we're going to go in there with a negative attitude and not want to help promote like a game that we want to see be successful again. But yeah, like the community involvement for us has been very limited, which is unfortunate. Um, you say Microsoft, Bungie leaving was a big part of this, right? Like Bungie kind of stepping away from the scene and kind of themselves going to PlayStation, right? Even they went to PlayStation with their Destiny title, which look at the amount of content, whether it's esports or not, just look at the amount of content you've gotten from Destiny in the past 5 years. Between Destiny 1 and 2, all the season passes, like all the stuff that we've gotten from Destiny, it's kind of crazy to see how much they put out. And then Microsoft had this game where they could do so much and gave you nothing. Like it was already set up for them to make a killing, even if it was just for profit. And they didn't make a great game. They chose to like release nothing new in the past 5 years, which is a little mind blowing. But hey, Tim, that's what today is about.
Indeed.
Today is about
Indeed.
Halo Infinite being revealed to the world and gameplay. Like we've seen cinematics, but we got some gameplay today, and that was great.
Yeah, I look, I think, we were kind of bagging on Halo for not having enough content and things like that. 2015 was a long time ago, right? Back then, you didn't have to have a BR. You didn't have to have seasons and new things every time. So 343 Studios and Microsoft, I will give them the benefit of the doubt that you didn't need it back then. It wasn't a thing. Not saying you didn't need it, but it just wasn't a thing. So this is kind of going to be the first time and this is where I'm upset with the showcase, the quote unquote showcase, right? They showed like a 2-minute trailer for campaign. I wish they would have given us a little bit more so we had a little bit more to go off of. I want to know roadmaps. I want to see future plans. What are your plans to expand it and keep me interested? Not just from a multiplayer esports point, but it's like the longevity of the game. The game has to be popular to be a popular esport. Like that's kind of like Counter-Strike is a popular esport, but it's also like constantly trades off for the number one game on Steam. So, League of Legends, a very popular esport, also one of the more popular games, always number 1 or 2 on Twitch.
Yeah.
You have to be popular to be a successful esport. So how is Halo going to do that? I have some hopes because in the trailer they did show, and you actually mentioned this yesterday, you wanted to see more of an open world than a linear world. They did say the one thing they said is that it's going to be a bigger map than ever before, and you do kind of get to more so choose where you go.
They showed the map, right?
Yeah.
So you could see the map, and it showed the different terrain and area around the warthog. That was actually pretty cool, by the way. The warthog looked and sounded good. I like the way that felt as he was driving it
Oh
around for
yeah.
those few seconds there. But yeah, they showed the open world map, and you could see that there are some plans to go that direction, obviously. Now, what that entails, we don't know, right? Like, how is the loot system going to be? Is it just an open world map where you complete a bunch of missions that leads to like takes you through a storyline that way, or is it continued progression of some sort of trying to make your character stronger or whatever? We don't know a lot of those details, so I'm still hesitant to say like, oh, it's open world and it's going to be this like massive expansive game. It may be open world with just a bunch of quests lined up that you go complete until you're done with the game. So I would have loved to hear more about that, especially when you call this the campaign reveal. I was hoping for a little bit more info on the game,
Yeah.
right? Like you gave us this gameplay trailer, which I think in total was like 6 or 8 minutes. But like a couple minutes, the last few minutes were a cinematic within the game when he's talking to a Destiny 2 looking Cabal character that they had there in
In
front
their
of him.
defense, they're designed by the same people.
Yeah, I mean,
in their defense, Halo was originally Bungie before moving out to Microsoft in 343. So, and then Bungie made Destiny, which has strikingly similar people.
Yeah,
So,
it does. But hey, Destiny is what's relevant. Like Destiny is what people
yeah,
are.
but it wasn't what came first.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
not
give
what came
Halo a
first.
pass on this one. Destiny,
But-
Bungie kind of got uncreative with
But just
Destiny.
a couple minutes of the demo that we saw was a cinematic, which was a little like, okay, like give me just some more
Yeah.
gameplay. They did show us some things that we can look at from a multiplayer perspective, right?
Yeah.
We did see that there is sprint in the game.
And not a cartoony futuristic sprint. It looked like a normal sprint.
Looked like what you would expect a sprint
and that's
to
what
look
I don't
like.
need a thruster. I don't need boosts. I just need a sprint.
We saw that there was a slide, like sliding was in the game. He did a little slide jump there at one point.
Was there
the
climbing?
grapple hook?
Did he climb?
No, he jumped. He like slid and then like jumped onto a box.
I'll have to rewatch the trailer though. I don't know if he grabbed any ledges.
Yeah, I didn't notice that or not. They did show him using a grapple hook.
The slowest grappling hook in all of video games though. Can we spice that up a little bit?
It's going to be an equipment piece in multiplayer, they said. You will not like start off with it. It won't be something.
Okay, I missed that.
Yeah, because they do that Halo waypoint that they release like info on there. And so in the Halo waypoint, it talks about the grappling hook being an equipment item in multiplayer.
And I think that's what's going to happen now is now that they've revealed this, we're going to get a little bit more outpour to
yeah, like
news.
naturally, like they know that's what's on everyone's mind, right? Like the community was not waiting for a Halo campaign. That's a benefit to the multiplayer, right? Like you want the multiplayer, and then, well, hey, we get a campaign out of it. Let's see what they do with it. But we did see a little bit of like how the movement would be. It felt a little slow. I don't know if that was just me.
No, it wasn't.
Like,
and I was going to bring up the same thing. And I actually watched the trailer at like 1.25 speed on YouTube, and it looked a lot better. So, look, the thing with these reveal trailers, again, this is where it's too soon reaction. It's like they go in the office and say, okay, who's never picked up a controller before? You, the intern? Great. Come play this now for everyone. Because, like, the gameplay is never, like, the most epic looking. They're obviously going super slow naturally so you can see the map, right? Like they're doing very unnatural movements
they want you to see like the beauty of the map and the world. And,
so I'm going to give some benefit of the doubt. The guy couldn't hit a headshot to save his life. Again, to show that if you shoot him in the leg, they get tripped up and things like that. I picked up on some of that. It did look slow, but I'm hoping that's just
like put Shotzi on the sticks and then I'll tell you if it's slower or not.
Right, exactly.
Like let somebody like that touch the game and then we'll see how slow it is. But it looked slow, right? From what they showed us, it looked slow to me. And that's a little worrisome. But I'm curious to like how they take the direction of this game, right? Like Nate Shot brought up the purists don't want a BR to be put into this game. Whether you like it or not, I think it should have one for the sake of bringing in a player base, right?
Yeah.
You're not obligated to play Warzone when you play Call of Duty. It's a part of the game if you choose
Yeah.
to do it.
And
But guess
honestly,
what?
make it free to play.
You have 100 million more players because Warzone is in your game. I think it would be foolish for a game like Halo that now is already built an open world not to make some sort of BR experience in there. But for whatever reason, I feel like they mentioned at some point previously that they didn't have intentions of putting a BR in. I
That
don't
was
know if that's 100%
probably
accurate or not.
that was probably 2 very successful BRs ago, though. I
Yeah.
think they did say that when it was like just Fortnite. But after we saw what Warzone has done for Activision and what the hell is that one game called?
Apex?
Apex. Whew.
Yeah.
It just goes to show how much we where that game has gone. But Apex, what they did for EA for a little bit. So I think it would be foolish to not have a BR. I would like to play it twice before I say BR suck again and then go on my rant. I think it would almost at this point, though, if you're going to have a BR, the expectation is that it's free, at least eventually, that the BR goes free. But then again, that's where a game, look, the thing with the BR that makes it so beautiful is the season pass fits in so well with the BR model, right?
Yeah.
Because you have the seasons, tweak up the maps a little bit. You have a built-in calendar pretty much for when you want to do the updates. And people know that, so they constantly are paying attention and buying into it. So that's the beauty of a BR. That's what makes it such a cash cow. And I think, like, you almost, if you're a AAA game, you at least have to entertain the idea and come up with a variant. And, I mean, Halo has been known for its big team battles and the tanks and the Banshees and the Ghosts that, I mean, they work so well on a big-scaled map. It would be interesting to see how they do with the BR.
Like I think it would be fine. Like I don't see why there would be anything wrong with it. You already have the weapon system in place for long range and short range weapons. It's not like you have to redesign the guns that you have. You have an open world map. You could easily, build off of that if you needed to. It's a quick kill game. It's not like you have to put 100 shots into somebody, to kill them. So I mean, I feel like it has all the basic tools to make a good BR, and good to be popular, right? Whether it's good determines what they do to make it unique, if anything at all. But this is about the multiplayer. This is about what we're hoping to see or what we got out of this that would get us excited for multiplayer. And again, the things for me, Tim, was like, I like the sprint. I know a lot of people don't like sprint. To me, Halo felt slow without a sprint. Maybe that's because I'm used to sprint in almost every game I play in, except for like CS for the most part. But I think that's a good thing. I think adding movement and allowing people to have some freedom to make plays because of some of these features you have is good. The grappling hook didn't bother me that much. Like if it's an equipment item in the game, well, guess what? One of your guys might be really good at utilizing the map and making plays with it. Like you're going to see some really badass stuff with it, I'm sure, ultimately.
With how slow it looked, it didn't look like an item, though, that you could make plays with. Might be able to get to some places that you might not be able to without it, but it doesn't look like something that you could... It's not like the Call of Duty grappling hook, right? Where you were Spider-Man just whipping around the corner.
Because you also had, like, the grappling hook and then that guy that, like, dropped that hammer down on the ground, spike or whatever, and could kill anyone in the radius.
The guns. Like, the guns, to me, looked very Halo-esque, right? Like, they didn't reinvent the wheel when it came to the weapon. And that's one thing I will take away from this campaign trailer, is that where Halo 5, they tried to, like, reinvent the wheel for Halo and add in like boosters and everything here. Like I got two almost Call of Duty Advanced Warfare-esque. This almost looked like they took it back a little bit and said, look, we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Let's keep it what makes Halo Halo, and then we'll expand from that. So I liked the weapons.
Yeah, seeing like the battle rifle was great.
Yep.
Seeing the pistol, I thought the pistol looked really smooth the way they were shooting it. Like it looked and felt like Halo in that sense, and that's what you want, right? You didn't want them to like go too much and veer off the path and build something new because you're trying to cater to a specific audience here. Um, they showed him picking up some more powerful weapons as he kind of went along the stage, and those weapons looked cool. I did hear that this was like capped at like 60 FPS on console. That's a problem. What the hell are we doing making next gen consoles then? Like, if you're going to cap it at 60 FPS, great. I don't need to upgrade. Like, my current console runs at 60 FPS if you wanted to. So, maybe that's a good thing for us that don't want to spend the $700-800 that the next gens are going to cost. But I hope it's uncapped on PC.
So yeah, so this is my next. This is where I think, and I say they made a mistake. I mean, they could come out tomorrow and say the same news, and it doesn't make a damn of a difference. But I would have liked to see a little bit more on this type of stuff. Like, what are your future plans for your PC side? You came out with Master Chief Collection, so that means that you have interest on the PC market. I know it's coming to the PC, but unlike the Master Chief Collection where you kind of just did it and then said, okay, we're taking all your opinions on the control and aim assist for PC players, but we're not going to change any of it, right? It's kind of like, all right, so where is this market for the PC? I think it would be, honestly, with the way Microsoft and Xbox has veered towards just finally kind of accepting the fact that they're PC first, right? The fact that most of their games are on PC, you can get it on the Game Pass. I think Halo is in a perfect position, Anuj. It is primed right now. It is not dead, but dead enough to where if they wanted to make the push and make their esports scene on the PC, they could do it. I feel like they could do it with the hype going into it and carrying that over. I feel like they could make it happen.
So let me give you a glimmer of hope, right? A glass half full type situation here. Maybe we did not get any multiplayer info today because this was an Xbox event. And they know the multiplayer, possibly, I'm hoping, again, this is more of a hope. They know the multiplayer needs to be shown off on PC, especially if that's the market they're going to target ultimately. Obviously, they can do 2 events and hype it up more. That's a big part of it too, right? Like,
Right.
having 2 separate
Yeah.
events gives you more opportunities to be in people's eyes. But because this was an Xbox event, they didn't maybe want to show off the multiplayer as like an Xbox feature. Hey, we can show the campaign. That's great. But the competitive Halo side, maybe moving to PC, and maybe that could be the reason for why we didn't get any info there, because they have to save that for a later date. Like, you're not talking about PC at an Xbox press event. So that would be my silver lining for that. Otherwise, I'll say I came out like a little disappointed. Like, I really went into this. I didn't know it was a campaign only thing until today. So that was a little unfortunate. Maybe it was, me being the idiot and not reading.
Well, I didn't see anything that said campaign. The first time I saw them say campaign was in a tweet this morning.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they saw some tweets and said, people keep talking about the multiplayer. Maybe we should tweet something.
Let's be a little clear on what we're showing them today. And so, I didn't see campaign until this morning. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, let's see what we get. And I just felt like it left me wanting more, which is good.
Yeah.
But with what I saw, I also wasn't sitting there thinking, wow, this is next gen Halo. Like, this is something out of this world that I'm looking at. I didn't feel that way coming out of there. I watched it and I moved on with my day. Like, I really didn't think about it a lot more until we were like prepping for the show and getting notes together. It wasn't something that I was like, let me go watch that again, or let me go watch reaction videos or things like that. Like, I wasn't that interested with what I saw. And again, maybe that's just because it was the campaign and that's not what I'm there for. But nothing blew me away, but nothing looked terribly bad either.
Yeah, I'm still hyped. I got goosebumps watching it. Just all the feelings of, like, it was very Halo, where it's like, you see it, and then the Covenant dropship comes overhead and stuff. Very reminiscent of Halo CE. That got me goosebumps and everything. I was super excited. But, I think I'm more on the fence to you, where it's just kind of like, okay, a little bit more of a hype than I thought, right? Like, that probably could have just been sufficed as a scheduled YouTube video, and
Yeah.
I would have been just as hyped. I didn't need a week-long running up of everyone in the Halo scene going, get ready. Oh, 3 days, 2 days, it's tomorrow. Get ready for the big reveal. And like even guys from their esports side was saying like, get ready. Everything's changing. And then it was like, but you didn't tell me how. Like the map's bigger, I guess. I can drive around more, but how? Like, what are you adding to the game? So again, it's our too soon reaction.
You, like I said, left you wanting a lot more ultimately. Yes. There just wasn't any, there was zero game info. It's not like they sat there and spoke about it afterwards for 20 minutes. Like there was literally the trailer and the guy basically thanked everyone for watching.
Like I said, that's our too soon reaction. By the time this podcast is put up on the interwebs tomorrow, they could have done another video and we look like a bunch of idiots because they just dropped every detail about the game. But as of right now, kind of in the same boat where we were. We just know a little bit more guns and the way they shoot. So either way, still hyped, still looking forward to it. Again, if anyone from the pro Halo scene wants to come on the show and talk about it, talk about even just, getting ready for it, hit us up, slide in them DMs. I want Halo to succeed, which is also why I think it has to go to PC, because all of the big supporters, all the big players for it have moved on to the PC. You have Summit being the biggest supporter that I know on Twitch for Halo, and his reach is massive. Like, #1 streamer on Twitch, massive. And the fact that you had him bitching about the Master Chief Collection because the aim assist was too bad, or, like, in the sense of, like, it was too good, right? So it made the gameplay bad for PC players, is not a good look. You cannot have that with Halo Infinite. You cannot have the PC players play for a week and get excited and then drop off. It's because, again, this isn't Call of Duty on the PlayStation and Xbox. This is Halo on the Xbox. So the PC players for Call of Duty have kind of died off. You're not going to have that same reaction that you do in Warzone, where it's just wildly populated.
And you really have like one chance to get it right nowadays, because there's too much variety in gaming to sit there and release a game that is not enjoyable early on, fix it and come back, and like all of a sudden the player base is back. Like Rainbow Six comes to mind as a game that kind of revamped a little bit and became a better game, like a much better game in my mind over time.
Yeah.
And the player base got bigger, but there's very few games that launch, lose a good portion of their player base for whatever reason. I'm not saying Halo will, but if it did, that lose a large portion of their player base, and then they correct something and there's an update and everyone comes running back. Like, Twitch streamers have a lot of power in what games are popular. Look at Escape from Tarkov.
Yeah.
Do you think that game would have been nearly as big as it is right now if you didn't have a majority of the big name streamers like play it as long as they did? Like, you've got to be kidding yourself. It was from a small studio that's not even on one of the, it's not like it's on Steam to be promoted. It's not on Epic Games. Like, you have to download their own launcher. Streamers have a lot of power. You need them playing it. Guess what? They're all on PC. They're not going to sit there and grind on console like day in, day out. That's a limited pool of like popular streamers that are Xbox console streamers. So, take that for what it is. Again, I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I really think they're going to do a good job, and I'm hoping for a great multiplayer reveal. I do think it'll suffer if it's an Xbox focused like esport. I just don't see it. Like, I don't see it blowing up all of a sudden. Like, it'll be bigger than it is today, but it's not going to be like some juggernaut
like
of a community
you still
like
have,
you see
like,
with some of the other games.
The thing with Call of Duty is that when it switched to, like, the big thing was, is it going to make a switch over to PC, right? Like, there was that little bit of time where people thought that might have been a thing when CDL was coming out. The issue there is that you still had wildly popular players who still played the game. There's really only a handful of Halo players with that type of notoriety that you would be like, you can't abandon them, right? They're too big to move. I mean, what? I got your Pistola. Um,
Snakebite, I guess.
Snakebite. There's only a few that I can name. Like the Ogre Twins aren't still playing. Walshy's not playing. T Squared isn't playing.
Snipe Down, I guess, is still playing.
Hell,
He's not playing Halo, but he's playing competitive Apex at the moment.
yeah, I mean he's still playing competitively, so maybe he could jump back if he wanted to. But my point is, it's just like this.
Those names are too old and like far gone to bring in a new audience. Like they have their follower base, but they're not getting new people to like jump in.
Yeah,
you know that's gonna take the current generation and crowd. Like those guys are older, like we are almost.
Yeah,
you know, like they've been around for a long time.
Like it is possible right now for Halo to make that switch to PC. I think it would be capable. And you know what? If they actually figured out the aim assist properly, then maybe you could do it where they could play controller and mouse and keyboard. You know, I don't know that delicate balance. We've said it before. I think cross-platform was a fun idea. I think it was all meant for good intentions, but the execution just isn't what we thought cross-platform was
great for
gonna be.
certain games. It's fine for BRs, right? Because you need to fill a 100-player lobby. So whatever, like it's okay in there, but I don't want to see that in a competitive FPS like 5v5 setting, you know, like we'll see.
We'll see. Just like we will see this Mack interview in just a second, because I have to tell you about Thrive Fantasy. They are your daily fantasy sports app for prop bets. You enter the code TCR upon sign up and you will get a free instant $10 match on your first $10 minimum deposit. So you'll walk away with $20 to bet responsibly. Sports are back. Baseball is making a return. The NBA is back in like a week, I think. And the NHL is just around the corner.
Well, yeah, NBA started yesterday with scrimmage games that you can watch now. Like,
yes. You can't bet on scrimmage, though. You can bet on real games, which I think start the 30th. But that's a long way of saying sports are back. Esports are still here. Thrive Fantasy has both. Download the app. Use the code TCR. All right. So here is Mack with the New York Subliners. All right, and let's welcome on our next guest to the Centering Esports podcast. He is, I believe, one of, if not the youngest player in the Call of Duty League. Don't fact check me on it, but he's in the ballpark. He's got to be close. Maybe he'll even know. But please welcome to the show, Mack from the New York Subliners. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. Thanks for having me. And I'm not exactly sure. It's either me or maybe Illy. It's one of the two.
We'll go with you since you're on the show today.
I mean, you are, well, I mean, you are the youngest member on New York, correct?
Correct.
Both tenure there and by age. How's that been adjusting for you?
The adjustment has definitely it's been pretty easy, honestly, just because my teammates are just always trying to help me out and just help me figure out certain things, whether that's to do with my personal life or in game. So the transition has been pretty easy thanks to them.
You know, definitely have one of the more senior teams, right? With Attach, Accuracy, Zuma, Temp. These guys have been around and been in Call of Duty for as long as I've been watching, at least. What has been the most helpful thing having a bunch of seniors around you? Like, how have they helped you grow as a professional?
I think they just help me work on my bad tendencies and like just try to eliminate them as fast as I can. That's like the best thing that my teams have done for me, is just like point out the sloppy things and just help me get better and improve as an individual.
So you're living every 18-year-old kid's dream, right? Like you came from amateur status, now you're playing in the big leagues here. I want to talk a little bit about your story because it is unusual, right? Like a lot of the people in this league are veterans of Call of Duty. Like there's very few new names that tend to come up in Call of Duty. And so obviously you were playing in the Contenders League prior to this. Not Contenders, what is it called? Challengers League. Get all the games confused. Challengers League prior to this. How did you get noticed? You know, what did you do to stand out? Was it just obviously fragging out, or what really helped you stand out amongst the crowd?
I think it was a combination of like the way I got noticed from top teams and pro players and stuff. I think it was a combination of two things. One being I placed second at the one amateur event I did attend, and then also I kind of weaseled my way into professional tens, which is like just extra practice and
Mhm.
just kind of just slithered my way in there somehow and just was playing really well. And that's kind of just how pro players and people like that recognize me.
Who was your biggest cheerleader while you were in the Challengers League trying to get in? Like who was helping you along the way to get recognized, or was it just your dedication and hard work?
Um, I think it was more of just like me just putting in a lot of hours, just trying to be the best player I can be. It also helped that I was on I wasn't really at the top of the amateur scene in the beginning, but thankfully I was able to get scooped up on a much better team and it ended up paying off.
So is it crazy to you to think that you've already completed your first year of professional Call of Duty? Like your season is done, but it seemed like it's just zoomed by.
It definitely, yeah, it definitely went by way faster than I thought, honestly. As soon as I like came out here to New York, it's honestly just been a blur these past few months.
Correct me if had by the time you were on the team, that was right around when Corona was going, picking up. Did you get to
Yeah.
play a LAN event with the New York?
No, I've
Okay.
not played a LAN event.
All right. Well, that's kind of a bummer.
It is.
It's your rookie year, and you don't get a LAN event.
It's all good. I'm just got to deal with the hand we're dealt.
Yeah, that's true.
Player
Do you
stuff,
feel
player
then?
safety first.
Do you feel like that's because that's the whole argument, right? Is like, oh, online is more catered towards the inexperienced guys because when you're on LAN, maybe you get too hyped up or the crowd's in your head or anything. Do you feel like there's any warrant to that, or do you think that's just fans and podcast talk?
I think it's more of like fans and just kind of nonsense for the most part. I definitely do think that the atmosphere might affect people in certain ways, but if you're actually like a good player and you know what you're doing, going from online to LAN really shouldn't hinder you at all.
Was
Now, obviously, since you've joined the team, it's been a big turnaround for you guys. I mean, New York was sitting relatively lower in the standings prior to your arrival. That's obviously one of the reasons they made the change is they needed some fresh blood and a way to kind of re-energize the team. What have you brought to the team that's led to these results?
Um, I think I just brought at first. Now it's different. I'm using an AR now, but at first I definitely brought a much faster pace, just speeding up how we play on the map, and it overall ended up helping us a lot, as well as like just bringing just different like a different thought process, just different ways to play different situations, and all the stuff that I brought to the table really helped, I think.
So I'm kind of curious then, because on your team, obviously, like I said earlier, you are the youngest and the newest member. Sensor being a substitute, right? He's been very vocal about how he's not the biggest fan of being a sub, right? He'd
Yeah.
rather be on the starting roster like any player. You're not in the league if that's not your attitude. Did you ever get any backlash from any because Sensor, big voice, big fan base directly behind him. Did you ever get any backlash, or did you kind of have the full support of the fans behind you? Did you feel that like any of that?
When I first got picked up, I like kind of expected, or was like kind of just like expected to get like some irrational comments from fans and stuff like that. But honestly, I have really nothing to say. Like I didn't really have any negative comments towards me, especially from like Doug's fans and stuff like that. Doug always just preaches all the good things about me. Thank God.
Was it interesting to see him going back to Challengers, kind of where you came from?
It, yeah, it was interesting, especially like it was kind of just like 75%, 80% through the years when he started trying to play challengers, which is kind of unfortunate. I feel like if he tried to play challengers earlier in the year, it would have benefited him a lot more.
So then,
Now,
go ahead,
ahead,
go
Tim.
ahead, Anuj.
With champs coming up, obviously you guys are sitting kind of here in the middle of the pack. Kind of solidified your spot in the sense of it's going to be hard for teams to really pass you, and obviously you're not dropping into the bottom four. What's the mindset going into champs in a couple weeks here?
The mindset at the last tournament we played kind of sloppy and stuff like that, but honestly we're all confident as like individuals and as a team, and I think we all just know that leading up to this tournament we need to fix some of these bad habits and tendencies and stuff like that, and if we do that and we show up to that tournament and play our game, that we definitely have a high chance of winning it.
Tim and I talked about something just an episode or two ago where we were discussing momentum kind of carrying over from the last couple of events heading into champs. Is that something as a player in the league that you feel is accurate, or really, any given weekend anybody has the ability to step up regardless of how they performed the week before? As you mentioned, y'all had a little bit of a
Yeah.
tough time in the last event. Do you feel like that's more difficult to overcome heading into champs, or is it just like you feel like it's a clean slate, doesn't matter what happened last week or the week before?
I do think that winning tournaments and stuff like that does carry momentum into the next. Unfortunately for us, it kind of didn't work out that way, but the way I look at it, I definitely do think that like winning events and just like riding that wave definitely benefits teams.
We also discussed with London, right? I kind of want to focus on that just for a second since you did bring it up.
Hmm.
Was looking back on it, was it difficult to get into the zone knowing that your spot was set for champs, or kind of like once you kind of saw the tide turning, where you're like, hey, it's okay, we have champs coming up, we have our spot? Was there any of that kind of train of thought with the team?
No, I don't think we came into the event like thinking like, oh, it doesn't matter if we win this event, or I think we all went into the event like still trying to win. Like we just kind of came out flat. Some things didn't go our way, and yeah, I don't think we came into the tournament like kind of not blowing it off, but like, ah, nah, let's just this tournament doesn't matter as much as champs. Like let's just it doesn't matter what we place. It just didn't work out for us this weekend or the last tournament.
We've talked
You
to
know,
a
it's kind
lot
of
of players throughout the season and everything, and the one common thread that they all say is that they always thought that you guys, New York, was kind of the underdog of the league, right? Like you guys just never got as much credit as you probably deserved. I'm kind of curious then, since everyone kind of had a target on you, who was kind of in your mind, kind of your rival for the season?
Um, I think it's got to be FaZe, just because I think they knocked us out of three. I want to say somewhere around 3-2 tournaments or something like that, and they were all just like down to the wire, or at least the majority of the matches were like map 5, round 10s, like super close matches, and we just couldn't ever clutch it out against them. So I would say it's definitely FaZe.
What's going to be the biggest thing to help you overcome that hurdle against a team like FaZe or a Dallas, Florida, some of these guys that are at the top? What's one thing that you guys feel like you need to improve on most that's going to help you take some of these map fives?
Um, Honestly, I think it just comes down to just our teamwork in general. Like I feel like like the tournament we won, it felt like everything was under control. Everything was just perfect. Like I knew what was going on at all times. Where compared to other tournaments and stuff like that, where our comms and teamwork seem to kind of dip down a little bit, and that allows like room for mistakes and error and stuff like that. So I feel like the main thing that we need to focus on is just our communication and teamwork, and just making sure we're consistent with it.
Now, I want to shift gears briefly here. Obviously, this is your first year in the league, as we mentioned. There's been a lot of talk over the past week in terms of complaining about various issues within the game. Maybe how some of the matches have been handled, whether that's ping related, people dropping, whatever it
Yeah.
may be. Have there been any particular instances that you sat there and kind of had a WTF moment, like this shouldn't be happening? Have y'all experienced some of these hardships that other teams are discussing openly right now?
Um, Thankfully, we honestly haven't really been affected by as much as other teams. There were some matches where the server just wasn't for us. Like we would lag occasionally and stuff like that, but we really weren't too affected by any of the servers like messing up on us, thankfully.
And we talked to Wuskin just a couple of days ago here, and the topic of GAs came up. And to my surprise, and Tim and I agreed with him on this, is he's not a fan of the GA system. He does not like the way that it's run. It's just hard to feel like it's a completely unbiased system, the way it's set up right now. As somebody that's new into this situation, what are your thoughts on the GA system, and is that something that you would like to see change possibly moving forward?
Um I think that the GA system is necessary just because some stuff in the game like it's just not meant for competitive, and it just messes up just how the game plays out completely. I think it needs to be gone. So if developers or the league isn't like taking action to get rid of these things, where like players all agree on it and stuff like that. I think like the players have to come together and do something like that. So I do think it's necessary unless like we get a defined rule set that all players like have to come to an agreement on.
Do you feel like it's an unbiased system right now?
Um, right now, I don't think there's like any GA that was just like, how do I word this? Like, I feel like all the GAs were made to just better how the game plays out. Like, I don't think a team like tried to get rid of or like tried to keep something in that they knew was broken. I feel like most of the GAs have been somewhat reasonable.
How much say do you have as a young gun in some of these votes that come up?
Um, Probably like pretty much just the same as like the rest of my teammates. Like every team has one player in like the big group chat to discuss things like this, and like I'll just throw in my input here and there, and we kind of all come together as a team to decide like what our vote should go towards.
All right. Well, Mac, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I know you guys have an off week this week. What are the plans? Do you guys sit down? Do you watch the matches? Do you say let's take a week off before champs? What's the mindset going in?
Honestly, I think we're just still grinding. I think we're taking like 2 days off, like Saturday, Sunday, I believe, but Friday or tomorrow, I should say, we're just gonna be playing, going hard, and after the tournament, gonna be going hard as well.
With
Eyes on the prize.
well, that's not a bad prize either to have a. That's, you picked a good year to go pro. You picked,
Of course,
you
that's
picked a good
very
year
fortunate.
to go pro, and that's for sure. All right, so you're not in this weekend, so you can talk about it with
Okay.
the top teams in. You have Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, and Florida all in this weekend. Who do you think's taking Toronto?
Honestly,
You can say Seattle if you want.
I would love to say Seattle, but I'm probably just gonna go with Dallas. Probably they've been looking good recently, and I think they're just gonna ride the wave and come out this tournament strong.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you in champs. Before we let you go, we always ask our guests if they could leave a audio signature, if you will. It's pretty much where if you ever listen to like radio, they always say like, "Hey, you're listening to something." So if you could just state your name, like, "Hey, this is Mac from the New York Subliners, and you're listening to the Center Ring."
Okay. Hey, this is Mac from the New York Subliners, and you're listening to the Center Ring.
Look at that.
Perfect. First
What a
try.
pro.
It's like you're a veteran, dude.
What a pro. We've had much seasoned vets not able to do it as smooth as you.
Love to
Well,
hear
Mac-
that.
Mac, many blessings, man. Wish you all the best in this upcoming event. We obviously have our eyes on you guys, and we've enjoyed watching you and your team all season. And wish you nothing but the continued best for y'all. We look forward to watching you not only this year, but in future games to come.
Thank you so much. Means a lot.
All right, so there was our interview with Mac from the New York Subliners. Good dude. Can't believe, it's funny because I was going to say you can't believe he's a rookie, but that's mainly just because he is quite composure. For being an 18-year-old, I don't know what type of things I would have answered, but you can clearly tell the difference with some of his answers compared to, say, a veteran like when we've had Clayster or Crims or even Luskin on just last episode. Like, you bring up GAs to a veteran player, and they're like, oh, yeah, no, they're bullshit, and they're definitely not right. Like, we need them, but not the way we got them. And he's like, and poor Mac.
More politically correct.
Yeah, Mac is 18 years old. He doesn't want to rock the boat. It's like, no, I think they're great. I'm like, okay. I won't.
Let's hear what y'all say behind closed doors.
Yeah, I won't make you say anything you don't want to. I get it. You're a rookie. But man, I feel bad. Rookie year. Can't do a LAN.
No, that sucks. That's like that. I didn't even think about that until you asked it to him, and I'm glad you did because that really blows. Like your first year in the league and not getting a chance to play on stage, and first year of CDL, like that's tough. But he's performed badass. He's helped that team.
Yeah, he'll be around next year. He'll play.
Yeah, he'll be there next year.
So, but yeah, good dude. Wish them truly nothing but the best for champs. So we got one more week though before we can really talk about champs in the truest light of them all, because we have Toronto coming up this weekend starting tomorrow. So by the time you're listening to this podcast, maybe some of the matches have already started, but it is a big one, just in the sense of teams being there and like the little placements and seeds and things like that to go into champs, ultimately at the end of the day, it's not going to completely shake up the league. It'll give us some good storylines though going in, because you do have the top players. I mean, you have literally the top 4 teams going into it. You have Chicago, Atlanta, Florida, and Dallas. So right there you have because the 4 are figured out, but it's just where they're placing, right? The top 2 who get the bye week are not there. So this still is huge, because I believe, do you have the stats in front of you? I believe any one of those teams can get top 2, right?
Yeah, and everybody is fighting for the first seed right now. So everybody's still in play for that number 1 seed. Right now, Atlanta is holding at number 1 at 250 points. Dallas is sitting at second at 240. Florida and Huntsman are both third and fourth, respectively, but they're both tied for 220.
Yeah, so
everyone's right there.
So that's where that can really make a difference for these guys, because you do want those first seeds, because the bye weeks, I mean, if you're just looking at the money, are huge. But then where it kind of gets a little bit more interesting is on the bottom bracket of this, because you have Optic, Toronto, and Seattle 9th, 10th, and 12th. Los Angeles Gorillas, sorry, Gorilla fans, you're last place. You won that one. So you did win something, and that was last place. Congratulations. But those guys are, between them, Optic at 80, Seattle at 50. Now, it's going to be a climb for Seattle, but it's huge if they can not get the bottom 2 seeds, because the last thing you want to do if you're those guys is play any of the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, you won't be playing. Yeah, any of the top 4 are going to be tough for either of them. It's going to be really hard for Seattle to break out of that, because they're going to have to win some matches, and like likelihood is maybe they get 1 win, but it's not going to elevate them beyond anybody. In fact, all 4 of the bottom teams right now, and take Los Angeles out of the mix because they're not playing, but the other 3 all have to get a couple of wins to get out of the bottom 4. And that's really where you want to be out of, is getting out of that bottom 4. And so it's going to be tough. I don't see it happening for any of them, honestly. I see this being the bottom 4 the way we see it today. Seattle has just been in a whirlwind, and especially everything that's going on with Octane and what they've been through this year. Like, I just don't see them having their head in the game. Toronto, to me, is a little bit of a sleeper here because it's their homestand. So, again, I mentioned it last time, and I think it kind of at least held up with Royal Ravens making it to the playoffs. Home teams tend to perform a little better, it seems like, in their homestand. And then, we heard Wuskin say it, that Optic could be one of the most dangerous teams in the league if they can get their shit together with their 2 new additions and Slasher just being motivated to play. They're the one team that kind of stands a chance to get out of that bottom 4. And then from there, anybody has a chance. But it's going to be tough. They all have to win a couple of games to make a move, and unlikely to happen ultimately.
The bright side with Optic and Toronto is that they are, Paris is up there with 100 points in the middle of the pack. Optic has 80, Toronto has 70. Well, Paris is done. They're not playing, right?
Yep.
And out of the pools on this weekend, Optic and Toronto are in arguably the easier one. Okay, they only have Chicago to worry about. The rest is Seattle, and then, of course, Toronto and OGLA. So that's one silver lining, I think, if you're any of those, if you're an Optic or a Ultra fan, and you're going into the weekend. I mean, one of you have to make it out of group, right?
Well, one of you gets to get a win, right? Somebody is going to win out of those 2. Toronto and Optic, they play head-to-head in that first matchup. Somebody's going to get 1 point there. You expect Seattle to lose that first game, so they'll most likely be triggered and get eliminated in their next matchup. But that's kind of, like you said, the route for Optic to potentially get 2 wins is beating Toronto, maybe losing to the Huntsmen in that finals game, and then playing in that decider matchup to get into the playoffs.
They just have to get to third place.
Another win there, so that's a way to get at least 2 wins for them and pull themselves tied with Paris. And I guess then we have to figure out what tiebreaker rules are if that's all they ultimately get. But
yeah,
again, tough road. I think for me, I'm just more excited about the top half of this bracket. First of all, that first group, deadly. I mean, you have 3-time home series winner Dallas, 3 times home series winner Florida, Atlanta FaZe, who's kind of been regarded as the best team all year, and then Minnesota. Unfortunately for them, it looks like COVID actually hit that whole team. It didn't just affect them from a land standpoint, but they all might have contracted it because they have not been themselves since COVID hit, and haven't shown us that they have the ability to do so. So that top half of the bracket, there's a lot riding on this, and one of them is not making it. Tim, if I was a betting man, and if I did, I would do it on Thrive. I would think Florida is the odd man out because Dallas just handed it to them last event in an easy 3-0 sweep. So maybe that kind of lingers into this week, just like Mack talked about momentum carrying over. Dallas is riding high. Atlanta is not intimidated. Florida's the one team that's like, ooh, we just kind of got knocked around a little bit. Don't want that to carry over into champs. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I think Dallas is kind of in a perfect position, just how their schedule lined up to where they had week 11 off. Then they have week 12, which you won in a dominating fashion. So you're still like hyped up, right?
Yeah.
It's not long enough to where you can cool off. Like they're still running hot. It's only been a week. So you didn't even have like your standard 2-week gap that you had in the early part of the season. So I think the schedule lines up perfectly for them to still come into this event feeling good, feeling hot, and not cooling off or getting cocky in any sense. So I'm with you. I mean, I still think Dallas is my favorite to take the event. I just feel like even though FaZe has had solid finishes, they have looked very shaky. Like a lot of game 5s, a lot of map 5s that the FaZe has had to play. Probably, I would argue without looking it up, the most out of any of the top teams for sure in the league.
Like for FaZe not to have a third tournament win and be behind Florida and Dallas, to me, is surprising.
Yeah.
Because they felt like the favorite all year long, and then still think they have Dallas's number to a certain extent. But they haven't been able to close it out beyond that. So they just haven't like finished the fight, But yeah, I would agree. Like Dallas is probably my favorite going into this event, just coming off of a victory. The young guns are just out of this world. I mean, potential MVP candidate in Shotzi, and just the way they're playing as a group right now. They got to show me they can get over the FaZe hurdle. They have to show me this weekend that they can like not just compete with them, but like they got to beat them. They've taken them to these 5 games. Just haven't been able to like really knock them out consistently.
Yeah,
that's what I would like to see this weekend.
I think they're like 1-4
see this,
on the
like,
season.
If they lost again this weekend, I do think that sticks with you a little bit. Even if you both make it out of groups and then you meet in the finals and you lose to Atlanta, yes, you still came in second. You had a good tournament, but that sticks with you going into champs. Like you're probably going to meet them at some point, and you don't want to go in there having like a 4-1 deficit on the season series or something like that. Whatever it would be, it'd be around there.
Yeah. One player, and I'll bring this up. So that's Toronto. That starts tomorrow. Just a tad bit of branching off, but still Call of Duty CDL news. One player that we don't have to worry about his momentum going into champs is Aches on LA Gorillas. With the, to me, surprising announcement that he's no longer on the team. Seemed like a mutual agreement that he was going to step away. So he's official free agent. I don't know what the signing window is in CDL. I assume it's too late for him to get on a roster. But how about that? Could you imagine? I mean, I get it. You're in last place. You have had somehow a worse year than Seattle when it comes to performance-wise and just maybe even like locker room sense. But leaving right before champs.
That's a man, Tim, that is confident his team is going to place in the last 2. That's what I see. Like that is a man that is very confident that they will not be in the money coming out of champs, because to leave an event before champs seems like a huge mistake with the money that's on the line.
9th and 10th. Okay. So the only way you don't get money in champs is getting the last 2, 11th and 12th. Anything above that, you're walking away at least with $100,000.
Buys you a couple of Gucci shoes right there.
And I don't know if that's the way this is. I don't know if it's $100,000 for both 9th and 10th. So they're each getting 50,000. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how that's worded.
Either way, you're walking out with 20,000 or 10,000, like for yourself, you know. So
to completely say, no, guys, I'm done. I'm not gonna put in my 2 weeks. I quit. Like I'm done. I'm just not gonna do this anymore. I'm not gonna collect unemployment. I get it. I'm done.
It's funny because I saw Justin from the Minnesota Rocker tweet at him like, "Run it back." And Aches had changed his header to the picture of, I think it was like him, Justin, Apathy, when they were all on Evil Geniuses and made that run and won just a couple years back when they won champs. And so it was funny to see like Justin actively on a roster, Minnesota, who knows what's going through their mind right now. Apathy, who's sitting on the Surge, another guy that's like, okay, he needs to make the money. Apathy's got a kid, so he needs some dough coming in. But it's funny because he commented on there saying run it back, and all of them replied on it like, yeah, that was a squad, you know. So maybe just a little early, but I'm gonna throw it out there because then I get to say we called it. That squad will reunite next year on a team,
and it would make sense, right? Considering both of them, like you said, are on poorly performing teams. What's there to lose? You're literally can't go lower. You both are on the 2 worst teams in the league. So probably wouldn't hurt to go to Seattle and see if you can make it work. At least you have a hockey team now you can go watch.
Yeah, I like it. I like the logo.
The
I like the
NHL.
name. I like
Seattle,
the city. Like
Seattle Kraken. I think it's a pretty badass name. Again, it fits in perfectly with the that Seattle ocean whatever harbor theme. I like it. I know some people are giving it jokes. I like it. You know, I'm a huge hockey fan though. So
doesn't the
more hockey the better.
Doesn't the logo look pretty similar to the Surge's logo?
I mean, it's the whole
trident looking thing.
Well, they have an S, right? It's very oceany. There's like
they had a picture of a trident on there too.
A creature beneath.
Well, in the middle part of the trident was
an anchor. An anchor.
It was an anchor.
It's an anchor,
yeah,
not a
had
trident.
Like the needle, space needle is the middle part of the anchor. Like it was cool. I thought that was great. Like,
it's great.
And they all tie into each other nicely in that town though. I like what they're doing there.
Yeah. They got a theme and they like it. So I'm excited. I saw Seattle Surge tweet at them, so they're already. Not very often does an esports team get to say welcome to the city, but here's one of them. So yeah, more hockey the better. Looking forward to it. It could have been way worse. It could have been worse. So there's that for you. Anyways, so there's some Call of Duty news for you, some little NHL hockey news for you. But let's get into some e-news. In CSGO, per sources close to the organization, we can confirm per sources that Envy will be making some roster moves, including Michu and Ryan and Calix.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. I mean, it makes sense because Calix and Michu are both moved back to Europe. So since Summit, they haven't even, been together or been playing. Team underperformed, I would say really underperformed in the first season of Flashpoint. Like they should have been at least in the top half. I mean, I think they came in close to last there. So not overly surprising. I know Nifty again is taking like a ton of heat online. I don't think it's like a mistake to keep Nifty. I don't know if you want him to necessarily be your best player, but I don't think it's like a bad thing to keep him. The guy's got a good attitude. He's a skilled player, so I don't see anything wrong with keeping him. And especially, we know they're trying to keep something local. So like they don't want European players. It just doesn't make sense for them. So
and maybe a little bit victim of the time, right? Maybe if Corona never hit and Michu and these Europeans could have stayed here, maybe it would have been different. But
because they weren't playing bad. I mean, Ryan was playing bad, but like Michu and Calix were not really playing bad. There are reports that they were like looking to pick up Peter or PTR Peter.
Yeah, Peter.
To me, that would be a mistake. Like I think we know what we're getting there, and it depends on what your end game is here. I don't think that Peter's a bad player. I just think if it depends on what your objective is here. You know what you're getting. Peter played well on Bad News Bears. We know he's a free agent. He's capable of having good moments, but I think that type of roster only takes you so far. And if you're trying to build a world champion, if you're going off of the Jason Lake motto and you're going balls in, like that might not be the way to go. But if your objective is to like be profitable and be good and compete in the CS scene, then like Peter might not be a terrible move there. I'm just a little hesitant to say like, oh, that would get me excited for the future of like NVCSGO.
This is what you do, Anuj. Okay, you let the dust settle a little bit with Valorant. When all these other CS players that moved over realize that they're still going to be tier 2 in Valorant, you get them on the cheap when they cycle back to number 1 Bay in Counter-Strike.
But what are you going to do with like a bunch of tier 2 players, tier 2 CS players, tier 1 Valorant players?
I mean, look, a team of tier 2 is like top 3 in Flashpoint. So you stand a chance in
true.
Flashpoint.
That also is true.
That's and honestly, I think Envy, that's probably where their mindset is at. Is obviously every team's going to say we want to make a major, we want to win a major. Of course, you're going to say that, right? But you gotta, in behind closed doors, right? They have their milestones. I think performing well at Flashpoint is like number 1 because they're a founding member. They're not going anywhere at Flashpoint.
No.
Let's take care of our own backyard and then we can start looking at expanding. But right now,
in Counter-Strike, you know, you got to just be willing to shell out the money. That's what it comes down to. Like, you're going to have to go in a couple million to get the roster that's going to, like, compete at the highest of levels. So, unlikely that they want to do that right now is my guess. Like, there's too many other games that Envy is involved in heavily to maybe make that type of investment. And that's why I said,
you can get away getting top 3 in Flashpoint on a budget. I think you can get away with that. So.
And Peter, I think, would also be good enough to help you do that. Okay, so it's not like I'm knocking him as a player. I actually like the dude too. Like personally, we've met him.
Nice
I like Peter. Like he's a great guy, great family. Like there's a lot to like about him. It's just where are we setting the expectations? If your goals, hey, let's compete in Flashpoint and do well there. I think you might have had a roster that was doing that. You could have replaced Ryan. If you're trying to bring them all home, then it starts to make more sense. So we'll know as they kind of give out a little bit more information on what their plans are.
Yep. In Overwatch news, you have Talio is looking to rejoin the San Francisco Shock, pending some league approval there. So obviously Shock has been a little bit light since the departure of Sinatra and things like that. So looking to kind of replenish the roster a little bit there. In other news here, we already talked a little bit about Aches and Valorant. Already talked about our domination. Now you do have some nerfs coming in though. So we had Raze has been nerfed. They did announce a new hero.
Did they already do the Raze nerf, or they're doing a Raze nerf? I think they're doing a Raze nerf.
I don't know. The patch notes were posted, so I don't know Valorant's patch note schedule. I don't know how, like if they post it and then boom or what. If it's like Overwatch, they'll post patch notes and it's like 6 months later you'll get it. So who knows? But they did announce a new hero, so we'll talk a little bit about that sometime in a Valorant here in the near future. In other news, though, it has been a packed week for other news. You have Rocket League will be going free to play at some point this summer. A huge announcement for that game. I won't lie to you, Anuj. I thought it was free to play.
I was just, Tim, this is why we work together, dude. I really thought Rocket League was a free-to-play game at this point.
I didn't know.
So I'm glad they're doing it. I think that's great for the game, and it's only going to help the game grow. But, like, geez, talk about something that should have happened, like, a couple years back, honestly.
That
like,
was
this game...
really breaking news for me.
Yeah, it really was.
I mean, I guess I've owned it since, like, day one, so, okay. But Yeah, I mean, that's cool. It'll be nice that there will be people as bad as me at the game, so maybe I'll actually, stand a chance. So that'll be fun. Rocket League will also be having an invitational with ESPN. That will be this weekend with 8 teams, some big names too. You have I think it's just
top 8 pretty much.
Yeah, I mean it's a legit tournament hosted by ESPN, so props for them. With a $25,000 prize pool, not too shabby.
Yep.
RIP to Mixer, as it is officially no more. In fact, if we even go to the website, what does it show?
I think it directs you to like Facebook Gaming. Or
Thank
like
you for it. Yeah, it's a
gaming.
little thing, and then there's a link that says thanks for coming by. Go to fb.gg. What a
What a
gaming
shit show, dude.
So let's go to fb.gg. It looks terrible, but RIP to Mixer. RIP to Mixer. Not gone and probably forgotten. Update with Brime. Speaking of other disasters, look, I'm done kicking Brime when they're down. They are having a rough go. If you follow them on Twitter, they're not doing great, folks. Okay, they released their alpha. Then in that they had typos in the email. They had typos on the website. The terms and conditions, which is normally a link on like any other website, wasn't a link, so people couldn't read their terms and conditions before they signed up, which obviously in today's world is pretty much just screaming China is going to take all your information. So people were pissed about that. And then in the meantime, Brime, like, rather than just saying, oops, our bad, here are the terms and conditions, there was something wrong in the coding. Suck it, right? Like any other website would have told you. They were like, we are so sorry we broke your trust. If you no longer want to use our service, we understand. They were acting like a victim in like a abuse case. Like, Brime, this is my thing here, okay? I'm not going to kick you when you're down. This is free advice from the #1 esports podcast. Nut up.
Free publicity.
Nut up. And just act like you're a top. This is what happens when you wanted to have fun with all the Dr. Disrespect and Ninja rumors, and you rode that to where you're at right now. With that, though, comes 80,000 followers with expectations. You should have just kind of came out and said, look, Dr. Disrespect isn't coming here, but we'd still love to have you guys.
We're still a platform, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
You know? It didn't get that from them.
No. So you kind of dug your own hole.
The last time we probably discussed Brime now.
Yeah.
That's probably it for them.
Yeah.
Epsilon CEO Greg Champagne owes players thousands of dollars, is what we're hearing, including like FaZe Brokey and several other players in Counter-Strike.
Do they have teams anymore?
You see this too often. Like, Epsilon's like a big organization. Like, it's not like they're some small group that hasn't been around a long time. Like, they've been around a while. So to hear that, it's just really disappointing. To hear that it continues to happen in esports, also just another disappointment there.
Epsilon Esports, fun fact, Anuj, was actually like the original team Jerry Jones, owner of the Dallas Cowboys, now partnered with Complexity. Epsilon was like the original team way back when for him to purchase.
Look, for Jerry Jones to pick up Complexity, that shows me this man's a businessman. He knew what he was doing, because that was the perfect organization to partner with. Like, that's really been... They've created something special over there, which is really cool to see. And hey, looking at it, he obviously made the right decision, because this guy, if this is all true and all of this comes out to be the way it is, like, that's a trash tier move, and that's something you expect from tier 2 organizations, not anything more. Tim, this is huge for me, because this bothers me. Former Method Black, your MDI champions, are still looking for an organization. Like, they have still not got picked up by an org. This isn't the number 2 team, the number 10 team, the number 15 team in MDI. This is the number 1 team consistently in the world, still looking for an org and having everybody tweet and retweet, because they're obviously not even fielding that many calls from tier 1 orgs, is my guess, or they would have signed by now. G2, you're out there. Envy, Complexity, Complexity actually has an MDI team. They won it the year before. So I would love to see them get picked up. Like, I'm an advocate for these guys. They left a terrible, unfortunate
situation.
That was a situation that was happening with that Oregon. They made a strong stand to leave and give up their paychecks. Like, I really hope they find
How much
a
we
home
talking?
soon.
How much we talking here?
Like, you're probably paying them what? You know what?
I have $75 in my wallet right now.
What do you think they're actually making?
I mean, like you said, they are like number one. How many guys on the team? Five, right? Five?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. What would be 80,000 per? Is that
50 to 80K, you would think?
That's what I would think for a professional WoW, not even like a WoW arena, but a WoW. But the thing is they're making so much money on the streaming and content side, right? That's what you're paying them for, because that's where that comes into play. So,
well, I hope they find a home. They're
I do
deserving.
too.
They put in the work.
Method Black Lives Matter.
They do. They do.
Just remember that. Twitch, at a perfect time, go figure. It's like they're a business who thinks of these things. Launches new esports, or a new, sports channel.
You are Ron Burgundy. I typed that wrong.
I told you. If you type it, I'm reading it. I'm a newsman. I'm a newsman. Twitch launches their new sports channel, which will have football. Is it NBA? Or is it just basketball? Like NBA will be. I know they used to have G League on there, so maybe there.
I thought it said NBA.
Maybe. Either way, it's a real sports channel on Twitch. So suck that, boomers. Okay? You make fun of us for playing video games and watching people. Well, guess where you're going to watch your sports now, suckers? At the video game website.
That is pretty cool, though.
Look, if I have to go to one less website just to watch everything, if you could also just throw in like a Netflix tab, then we're good.
Like, solid.
Just throw in a Netflix tab, and you know what? It's probably not. We'll probably have a Prime tab somewhere in there because it's all owned by Amazon. So I'm sure that will happen here soon. But yeah, honestly, a long time coming too. So it's good to see a normal sports section. I know the Women's National Hockey League streams on Twitch, so it'll be nice to have a specific area to go for that, for when they start up again. So
they just created the esports part on their website also. So I like some of these steps that they're taking to make content easier to find, right? Because it does get kind of littered throughout the website sometimes. So dedicated spot for all of these things like that. That's great. It's easier for us.
And like I said, perfect timing as baseball's coming back. You got hockey and basketball right around the corner. Football, despite the NFL's best efforts, I think is going to start, even though like all their players are continuing getting sick when they had like the easiest time to not get sick this whole time. So I will severely be depressed if football does not come back for the fall, but here we are.
As a Lions fan, though, like, might not be the worst thing.
Football's never really back. Football's never really back as a Lions fan. So, it is what it is.
Could be worse. Could be a Washington fan.
Could be. Washington. Actually, though, I don't hate, like, if they just want to stick with Washington football team.
I think that's a filler name.
It is a filler name, but if they want to stick with it, kind of soccer-esque, like Everton. Yeah. They just name it after their city. Be kind of hipster of them, after using a racist slur this whole time to go hipster. Why not? Why not mix it up? Anyways, thank you so much for listening. If you were here on Twitch, thank you for sticking around as the internet died. If you weren't on Twitch, then you never knew the internet died because I can magically edit audio. So congratulations. We will be back to our regular scheduled programming next week. We will have Sunday night live on Twitch to record Monday's show. We'll have Yikes of the Week, quick Toronto recap, maybe a tiny Champs Talk preview, but we're going to have a big-ass episode for that with special guests involved, so be sure to tune in there. Follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring if you're not doing so already. And join that Discord. Again, that does it for Anuj. I'm Tim. We'll see ya.